the problem is that they're not going to hear it if it's coming so much from white people.
No.
Because of white guilt and because of discrimination. It needs to come from a lot of people from the Muslim community, but Islam has that added factor of death for apostasy, where if you criticize the religion, particularly if you left it as a former Muslim, you're putting your life on the line. People from the Middle East said, Lalo, if you came to Egypt or Jordan, you actually wouldn't have a lot of problem if you told people I'm an atheist or I'm a Christian. You could tell people that. They wouldn't really care. But they said, I can't say it, as an ex-Muslim themselves in their country.
And what do you also think about the fact, I know the Atheist Republic was talking about it yesterday. I really liked what he had to say about right-wingers now giving a voice to ex-Muslims, more so than the left wing. I don't want to be super partisan here, but that was what his video was based on. And what are your thoughts about the fact that the left isn't really giving voices to ex-Muslims? Because exactly what you're talking about, we need people to come forward that were Muslims, maybe not even ex-Muslims, but to talk about Islam and to wake people up. But they're not really getting the platforms that they need to do so.
Yeah, I disagree with a lot of people on even people on the left or people who aren't in this sometimes. I constantly hear them say, we need to appeal more to the left, or how can I lose some Trump supporters? I don't want to be on this right-wing show. I don't understand this philosophy at all. People, if an ex-Muslim went on Alex Jones, how dare you? He's crazy. He's insane. You shouldn't go on Alex Jones. Well, why not? If you're an ex-Muslim, for example, if I went on Alex Jones as a person of Hispanic and Arab background and I criticized Islam, if I did that to Alex Jones's audience, who are very towards the right and conservative, they might be like, look at this guy. He's an Arab. I didn't know this about the Christian Palestinian community of Chile. He seems like a very good guy, and maybe not all Palestinians are that bad. I used to think all Palestinians are all crazy fundamentalists. Why would that be a bad thing? That would be a great thing. Also, why do you how are a lot of these left-wing shows any better? We just talked about The View. They are very discriminatory against having on people who talk about Islam, even if they're from that country. Like you said, they're not going to have on an ex-Muslim woman from Saudi who lived under the most oppressive situation you could imagine. They won't have her on. You respect these people more than you respect Fox News. I don't respect Fox News a lot. I don't have a lot of respect for Bill O'Reilly, but I don't have a lot of respect for these women either. They're not much better. They're a discrimination of another kind. Well, should you do their shows? Yes. Because there's also misconceptions in the left. You should do The View. You should do Bill O'Reilly. You should do Fox News or Al Jazeera or Russia Today, no matter how bad they are. You got to pick your battles. You can't just say, I'm going to fight and criticize Islam, but I need to be on this perfect left-wing show where it's liberal and I'm talking to liberals with a liberal host to a liberal audience, and it needs to be that clear cut. Well, then you're not going to win a battle that way of ideas. You got to put it out there a lot more. And the thing I'll give credit to the right for is that, they'll absorb a lot of people despite a lot of differences. They'll have on people who are critical of Trump, but critical of Islam as well. I see that all the time. I don't think the left right now has that much tolerance. And I wouldn't consider myself right-wing. I don't know if I fall into the left-wing anymore. I think in the 80s and 90s, what was left-wing and liberal ideas, I think I matched with more. Today, I don't know if it matches with that. I don't really care.
We have to talk about Justin Trudeau. I cannot get through a conversation with somebody, an international person, without hearing about Justin Trudeau. So please, take it away. Let me hear your thoughts on him.
I did pay a lot of attention when he went to a segregated mosque. There was some elements there that were less known than others. So it wasn't just that when he went to this mosque, he said, my sister's up in the balcony, right? So because all the men were down below and the Muslim women are up on top. So from what I understand about Justin Trudeau is that he made sure 50% of his cabinet or something like that, or were women. And then people asked why. He's like, because it's 2016 was the year he said this or
2015, gender parity, blah, blah, blah.
Right. So this is a guy who thinks that women need to be 50-50. He's about feminism. He's about this and that. And he looks up into this gender segregated mosque and he says, Mom, my sister's up in the balcony. Also, what people didn't notice is that behind him, there was two other people of government of Canada, two women, who one had to go in the back different way than Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, Kathleen Wynne. She's the Premier of Ontario.
And they had to wear a veil. Right?
Crazy. These
are women who don't veil. So that's very contradictory about the whole, the hijab is a choice thing. If it's choice, why do these women have to wear it? Not only Muslim women, non-Muslim women are going to a mosque and they have to put on a veil. So it's not a choice, apparently. Apparently it's something you have to do. Even if you're in government, just visiting the mosque, even if you're not a Muslim, you have to veil yourselves. How bad does he think it is for Muslim women if these are politicians coming into a mosque who aren't Muslim? What do you think it's like being a 5-year-old, 15-year-old girl in an Islamic community like that? Mm-hmm. And they're separated in the audience. And then when he's asked about it, a news agency asks, well, you talk about feminism, but you go to a gender segregated mosque and you celebrate. He's like, he used this line. Well, I think we're more strong with diversity. Diversity is something for strength, not whatever.
That's all he says. That's the only thing he can say.
Something about like diversity being great. What is he saying with that? Somebody just asked him about a segregated mosque, plus the thing that weren't asked about, those women who had to come in the back door and veil, and he's calling that diversity. So what he's saying is that he favors the empowerment of women, non-Muslim women, and they have to occupy certain spaces, and they have to have a certain percentage, and they have to be here. They have to be exactly the same, not just equality of opportunity, equality of outcome, which is very different, which is not a kind of equality I'm usually in favor of. Not that the women won those positions, but that they have to have those positions because you need to have 50% women and men. Mm-hmm. I'm more of the idea of 90% of the women were qualified, hire them. 90% of the men were qualified,
it should be a meritocracy.
Them. This equality of outcome, perfect divide, 100% equality with women. However, if you're Muslims and if you're not whites and you belong to a weird religion that's foreign to me, well, I'm going to call your misogyny diversity. Well, you know what? I have a word for that. It's called racism. And it's not racism of low expectations. It's just racism. Is that he looks down on the... I know the popular phrase is racism of low expectations. It's racism. Let's not add words. Let's not... I don't even like identity politics too much. People talk about identity politics. It's racism. Right. It's just flat out racism. He thinks that those women don't deserve more equality. Why? Because they're in a foreign style mosque to him. So they in their fight to fight off racism, they're being the biggest racists themselves.
Totally
Why?
Agree.
Because we go back to what you were worried about before, which is white guilt. You got to find a spot where you just hold the same standard. You have a philosophy of equality, and it goes for everybody. I know Canadians tend to be very left-wing, very welcoming. The problem is that it's to the point where I think Canadians almost can't defend themselves against people who are supremacist in their ideology. Yasmin once said this to me, and I thought it was very telling. She's like, people in the West are very confused to think because Muslim communities and Muslim countries are less advanced, perhaps economically, and they seem to have less rights, people look down on them as being weak. She's like, they're not weak. Islam is very strong. Its strength lies in that people believe what they believe very strongly. You can see it in Pew Research polls, right? It's very universal, the Pew Research polls. It's not, most of the ideas there are not that controversial. If you see, for example, that homosexuality is immoral, multiple countries in multiple continents, dozens of countries, it's all 98%, 99%, 98%, 99%. It's all of them are like that. It's very, very universal. So it's a mistake to think that Muslims are weak. They're very strong in the sense that they have hold their convictions very strongly. And Yasmin even says, like, liberal values are generally new. People can't even figure them out yet, right? It's like the United States just passed gay marriage. This is like, oh, we're pro-homosexual. You guys just passed gay marriage. You guys are just figuring out your values. Muslims have their values for the last centuries. They know what their values are.
That's true.
And you're going to compete with them? That's going to be a tough time. So, and I don't know if Canadians are equipped to face it.
No, they're not. And that is the scary part. I don't want to be insulting to my fellow countrymen, but what I have seen is we don't have a lot of strong conservative media in Canada. We do not. So if you're getting blasted with state media, which is CBC, every single day, and they're telling you that Islam is peace and that these people are really great, and that, or the religion, I should say, is really great, and this terrorism stuff is totally overblown, and the cultural discrepancies are, it's just right-wing extremism, don't worry about it. And you don't have a lot of time to do your own investigations, your own research. You're busy with your life. You've got your kids. You've got to pay your mortgage. You have a job. You're busy. All of this stuff kind of goes in and out, right? So there's not a lot of education in this department. And that's why it's so important for people to get on YouTube, because they'll get alternative media and they'll see, like, people are actually talking about these issues. And there's a lot of intelligent people out there, and they want to help and they want to give you information. So.
Canadians can win this war of ideas. You can. It's possible, because you just have to show what you're fighting, and when they see it, they'll agree. Because the people who are causing the problems, the regressive left, the politically correct left, the pandering left, the white guilted left, all these groups, most of them are for liberal values, for especially in Canada, for all places. They're for the rights of minorities, the general human rights. They're for all that. So you just got to show them what's going on with Islam, right? Expand the voices of the people there. Highlight videos and documentaries and statistics and news stories that's going on there. And there's plenty of people to find who, when you interview them, you can ask them, so is the problem Islam or not? They'll tell you the truth. I interview people all the time. I don't try to goat them into saying what I want. I just say, a lot of people say it's politics or religion. Which is it? And people from all over the Middle East, Egypt, Jordan, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, they're like, no, it's the religion, obviously.
But you have to be objective, and you have to not be able to see skin color, and you have to not be able to base all of your decisions on skin color, and you don't have the lower expectation that bigotry because somebody has brown skin, right? Like, you have to look at the religion as just the religion itself, the ideas that it is presenting, and don't look at the conduit, don't look at the person, right? Like, so this is a problem for a lot of people. There's a lot of barriers there for them.
Yeah, something, I was just talking with a few people. I was recently talked with somebody in Egypt and somebody from Jordan and somebody from Morocco, and they were all saying something very similar thing separately. They all told me, all these policies that seem right wing and extreme and racist that you guys keep talking about in the West, a ban on Muslims, prohibit Sharia law, all these things, and you guys and the left and liberals seem to be losing their minds that it's racist. They're like, we do that in our country all the time. The guy I talked to from Morocco was like, why do you think it's a more secular country than others? He's like, we have travel bans on multiple countries, right? He said, if you're from Libya, you can't come into Morocco.
Right.
It says, for example, in Egypt, they're very extreme, cracking down on political Islamists, right? The Muslim Brotherhood.
As they should. This is something to be feared.
But they have multiple things going on for them that the West doesn't. One, they have a long history with this. This is very new to the West, like I was saying, since 9/11. But they've been dealing with Islamic fundamentalism for a very long time. So they're familiar with it. They know these people are a problem. A lot of people know that.
But that's the thing here. We don't.
You don't know it.
We're very naive.
Very naive.
Yeah. And we don't think that can come here. We don't understand that things can change like that. You have to fight for your freedom every single day. And, we can have something take over our country and turn it inside out. It can definitely happen.
There are dozens of countries to tell you this can happen. It's happening right now. It's happened historically. It happened yesterday. And it's literally killing people in the Middle East at this moment. So it's just not that hard to get. But again, because there's this weird thing in the U.S. and Canada and other countries where Egypt is not dealing with white guilt, right? Iraq is not dealing with white guilt. They're just dealing with Islam.
Right.
Unfortunately, the West is dealing with white guilt and Islam and fundamentalist Christianity and a bunch of other things, and they're not equipped for it.
Extreme liberalism is a real problem right now. It's
huge problem.
It's out of
huge
control.
Problem.
It's scary what's going on.
I totally agree with you, because that's because of the extreme liberalism. That's why you can't deal efficiently with foreign versions of conservatism. I don't like Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I wouldn't vote for him today. But again, I always try to be an empathetic person and put myself in someone else's shoes. I had on my channel somebody named Khalid Baroui, who is a Moroccan ex-Muslim immigrant to the United States and naturalized citizen who was pro-Trump.
Yeah.
Right? His reasons for voting for Trump and being pro-Trump, just like Asra Nomani, who's she's a Muslim reformer and pro-Trump.
She's great.
The reason they support Trump is because they see a lot of danger with Islam as people who are in danger from fundamentalists. When Khalid or Asra or other people who are Muslim reformers or ex-Muslims, they say, I fear for my life being an ex-Muslim or a critic of Islam, and when more people come from the Middle East to my country, it puts my family in danger. It puts my life in danger. I live in a Muslim community. Mm-hmm. I sympathize with that. My reason for not liking Trump so much is because I actually said this on Larry King way before the elections. I was on Larry King and I told him one of my worries about Trump is because I lived in Korea. I specialized in, I studied international politics in university, and I did my thesis statement on the nuclear proliferation of North Korea. And so I know a lot about nuclear arms. And currently today, that's the main problem with Trump is war with Korea. And I saw that coming. And as a person who lived in Korea, that's my worry. So I have my perspective. And then there's other people, for example, like Richard Spencer, who is pro-Trump for his reasons, because he believes in white nationalism and things like that. So, I saw a report on people who live on the border with Mexico, and they have huge problems with immigration. People coming from the border, taking over their town, makes jobs and a general society very complex, and it's very hard for them. I sympathize with them. They're going to vote for Trump because he's going to be hard on immigration because they have their problems. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is everybody here I just mentioned is voting for somebody based on their perspective and what they're worried about in their moment. Everybody's going to have a different perspective and different thing like that. So I don't like Trump from my perspective, but I completely understand the perspective of ex-Muslims or people living on border states and people who are worried about immigration. And the fact that, I totally understand ex-Muslims not liking Bernie and Hillary. Bernie is tweeting, "I stand with Linda Sarsour." How does that make an apostate feel? And then Hillary Clinton is saying, "Oh, I don't even want to see the word Islamic terrorism." How does that make these people feel? Asra Nomani, she was in Pakistan working with another journalist who got decapitated when she was working for the Wall Street Journal. How does that make her feel when Hillary Clinton says she won't even say Islamic terrorism?
Right.
I can sympathize with her. I'm like, she's like, I'm not gonna vote for that person.
So I have one more question. I don't want to take up more of your time. This has been a great interview. I just wanted to ask you personal thoughts, like, because you do speak out against Islam quite a bit. Do you have any fear of that? Do you have any worries that it could get you in trouble, or have you had any incidences where people have attacked you even online?
So even before I started doing this, I had to speak with my family. I had never done this before, speak online, especially about Islam. However, I was already aware of the challenges a lot of people who are popular in the topic, the challenges they face with security and everything. Mm-hmm. I face less challenges myself here in Chile, but I have family who lives outside the country, and my last name is very rare. And I had to speak with a lot of them, and told them, you guys, I want to do this, and I want to do it under my real name, and this is my real name, and this is my real last name. But I thought it was important to do. At the time, I think it was just around that time that Raif Badawi in Saudi Arabia had been arrested and flogged, whipped for just having a blog talking about secularism. Not even atheism, just secularism. And I thought, if that guy was willing to blog and talk about just secularism under his name in Saudi Arabia, what excuse do I have? And I think that's the responsibility of a lot of people in the West. It's not easy. Not everybody is in the same situation. Some people have, children and stuff like that. But I do think it's important to normalize the conversation about Islam. Because like I said before, one of the problems that the criticism of Islam has is that people are too scared to speak about it. It's not just people apostates. I mean, Sam Harris is not an apostate of Islam. He has plenty of security issues, right? So this is not exclusive to people who left the religion. Everybody have some danger in it. Yes, I'm safe in Chile, but I'd like to visit Palestine. I have family there, right? And with the last name I have, I don't know how easy that will be. So this does change your life a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm not just going to be in Chile my whole life. I'm also an American citizen. I travel there. I have family in the Middle East. I'd like to travel there. I know people who are of Iranian background who are atheists who speak out, and they tell me like they can't go back to Iran. They have a lot of family there, and they can't go back anymore. That's not an easy situation to be in, even if you were in the West and speaking about it. But I think it's important to do it.
Well, I do too, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm talking to you, and you're very brave, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to speak to me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill.
Bye. Have a great day.
You too.
Talk to you soon.